Hello everyone, my name's Shabab Qadar. I'm Head of Offices Research at Knight Frank.
And hi, I'm Abby Brown and I'm a partner in our London leasing team.
Today we are going to talk about London's diverse occupier base and in particular the education sector. This occupier group in recent years has been helping to create London's innovation districts and helping to propel London's economic growth to higher levels. So Abby, what is driving the significant rise in the take-up of the education sector?
Well, it's really interesting. I think, take-up has gone through the roof with this sector. I mean, when you look at last year alone, I think there's about 370,000 square foot that was taken up by the educational occupiers. That was, I think, a 485% increase on 2021. So a real sort of step up. But why? London as a capital city has a massive draw for people internationally. We see a huge amount of international students come and want to be located in London. Secondly, I think it's the fact that we have some world-leading educational institutions within London already, and other occupiers want to be clustered within that same location. We've seen the rise of professional educational sector specifically, and I think London is very much the base for them from a connectivity perspective, from a building perspective, and for an amenity and lifestyle.
I think it's really interesting across London. Whilst the share of the sector remains quite small, there are a number of sub-markets in central London where the proportion is a lot higher in terms of their importance to those areas.
We've seen a number of occupiers want to locate in Aldgate, Whitechapel. That seems to be an area that they're very focused on, as well as Stratford and Canary. And that's really to do with sort of rent affordability. And I think that's why that sector are very sort of focused on those markets. But also we have seen the educational sector take up space in Covent Garden and Strand for quality buildings.
Do you have a feeling for what the space requirements, the typical space requirements are of this sector?
Well, as with all occupiers, space requirements do change. But what's interesting about the educational sector is, historically, they've been very focused on cellular type fit outs, looking for large classrooms, educational space. Whereas now, modern ways of teaching, it's much more collaborative, much more flexible, and therefore a slightly different type of fit out. Not dissimilar to other occupiers across central London, there is that flight to quality. So they're looking for best in class space, which is, very much on the ESG agenda as well. I think other things that are particularly important to the educational sector is proximity to other organisations. So we've seen a lot of clustering, which I mentioned before. I think that is very important. But when we get into a bit more detail on the type of building, specifications absolutely got to be key. A lot of educational requirements will need a 1:6 density. That's one person to 6 square metres. And while that's not for every day, all day, they need to have the flexibility if they are max pack to be able to get a number of students in on that basis. And so therefore, that does mean they're very focused on a newer, more sort of progressive building going forward.
I think their presence in a number of central London sub-markets is creating an additional vibrancy in these locations. And we and Knight Frank have been involved in a number of transactions recently, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I mean, a couple of examples to pull out today. Firstly, we're involved with Teesside University, who have acquired just under 30,000 square foot on the Here East campus down in Stratford. And secondly, the University of Wales, who have taken about 45,000 square foot in Canary Wharf at West Ferry Circus. Both occupiers committing to a 15-year lease. There's real commitment to those buildings, to those locations, which is fantastic. Yes, they had to go for a change of use, as is typical, but they're taking proper grown-up buildings across central London and committing to their area for the long term, which I think is a real positive in terms of generational talent coming through for those areas.
I think we're likely to see requirements for space from education grow in the next 12 months to 2 years. And I think we're also likely to see a growing number of international institutions also requiring space in London to capture some of that rising level of student demand.